In a pub in London, a group of rowdy thugs are causing trouble for a middle-aged man dressed in a sharp suit. The man, initially reluctant to escalate the situation, finds himself cornered by the thugs who are pushing their luck too far. Little did the thugs know, the sophisticated gentleman transforms into a force to be reckoned with, a powerhouse in a suit, armed with various unconventional gadgets. He sends the thugs packing, scattered on the floor searching for their teeth. The pub owner, intending to call the police, is struck by a flying needle from the man's watch, instantly losing the memory of recent events. Eggsy Unwin, sitting on the sidelines, can hardly believe his eyes until the man reveals a piece of his past. It turns out the man is named Harry Hart, codenamed Galahad, a top agent belonging to a mysterious organization. 17 years ago in the Middle East, Harry Hart and 3 other elite agents stormed a terrorist stronghold by helicopter, successfully taking down the leader codenamed Falcon. However, they were unaware that the enemy was carrying a grenade. Eggsy's father, in a selfless act to save his teammates, threw himself on the grenade and tragically died in a foreign land. As the team leader, Harry Hart has carried the guilt ever since, silently watching over Eggsy, hoping to offer assistance when needed. Eggsy, with exceptional talents from a young age, lost his way after his father's death. He not only engaged in petty crime but also repeatedly evaded the police for car theft. It was only when Harry Hart finally found Eggsy that he decided to help him turn his life around and make something of himself. Upon learning about his father's heroism, Eggsy begins to realize his mistakes and agrees to abandon his bad habits and start anew with Harry Hart's guidance. Under Harry Hart's tutelage, they arrive at a tailor shop's fitting room, where Harry Hart presses his palm against the mirror, causing the entire fitting room to descend slowly. They arrive at the bottom level, where they board an underground travel shuttle that swiftly transports them through the entire city, arriving soon at a magnificent castle. Beneath the castle lies an expansive airport, with all sorts of aircraft imaginable. Witnessing such a spectacle, Eggsy becomes even more determined to follow in his father's footsteps. Meanwhile, atop a snow-covered mountain in Argentina, a renowned climatologist is kidnapped. Shortly after, there's a knock on the door, and the kidnappers cautiously open it to find a sharply dressed man standing at the doorstep. Sensing trouble, they reach for their guns, only to be subdued by the man, who, like Harry Hart, is also an ace agent of the organization. However, just when he thought he had everything under control, another figure appeared at the door. He cautiously approached, but in the next moment, the man was split in half, and Valentine showed up. Upon learning of his friend's sacrifice, Harry Hart immediately rushed to headquarters to discuss countermeasures. However, what puzzled them was that the professor his friend intended to rescue was not missing at all. Instead, he returned to teaching at the university, suggesting there must be a hidden secret. To fill the manpower gap, the organization quickly began the selection process, with strong recommendations from Harry Hart. Eggsy, who had no formal education or background, also joined the training. The team members laughed and seemed to enjoy themselves during the training. However, on that evening, a large amount of water suddenly flooded in from under the floor, quickly rising to the level of the beds. Faced with this sudden emergency, the team members made 2 choices. Most people swiftly swam to the toilet and inserted a pipe into the U-bend to access a continuous supply of air. Eggsy, on the other hand, headed straight for the door, attempting to force it open with brute strength. But no matter how hard he tried, it was futile. With oxygen running out, Eggsy had no choice but to turn back to his teammates. In the nick of time, a mirror in front of Eggsy caught his attention. After securing his body, he began to relentlessly punch the mirror until cracks appeared on both sides. It turned out to be the first lesson prepared by Coach Merlin, aimed at teaching them teamwork. Although they narrowly escaped the predicament, one team member tragically drowned. Meanwhile, Harry Hart, in an effort to unravel the mystery of his colleague's murder, went to the university classroom to find the professor and resorted to force to extract the truth. However, just as he was about to obtain a clue, the professor's head suddenly exploded, leaving Harry Hart severely shocked and only able to leave behind a grenade to escape through the window. While Harry Hart managed to escape with his life, he fell into a coma due to severe head injuries. On the other hand, to further foster teamwork, Coach Merlin had each team member choose a puppy. All the pets were smart and strong, except Eggsy mistook St. Bernard for a bulldog, leading to a rather awkward situation. During the subsequent training, while the other teammates excelled, Eggsy was repeatedly embarrassed by the St. so much so that he resorted to threatening it with a gun. However, when he looked at the dumbfounded pet, he could only compromise and hold it close to his chest. After numerous rounds of rigorous training, Eggsy's growth was remarkable. Mastering many essential skills, months passed by in a flash, and Harry Hart, who had been in a coma from his severe injuries, finally opened his eyes on the hospital bed. Based on the video provided by Harry Hart, Merlin reconstructed the events of that day. It turned out that a chip was implanted in the professor's neck, capable of remote detonation. Tracking the IP address on the chip led to a company belonging to Valentine. Just a few days ago, Valentine had held a global press conference, announcing that everyone could receive a free SIM card. Not only is the SIM card compatible with any phone and computer, but it also allows free usage of his communication network. In just a few days, the wave of SIM card distribution swept across the globe. Meanwhile, the trainees faced the next training challenge, skydiving from 10,000 meters and accurately landing at a designated location. Failure to do so would result in elimination. However, just as the team members were descending normally, a single sentence from Merlin sent shivers down their spines. It turned out that one of the 6 people had no parachute. They had to come up with a plan to ensure everyone landed safely. Eggsy quickly came up with a solution, suggesting dividing the 6 people into 3 groups. However, one member, fearing for their own life, disregarded the safety of their companions and hastily fled by opening their backpack. Now with only 5 members left, the previous plan had to be abandoned. Eggsy quickly had everyone form a circle and open their parachutes one by one. Once they found the person without a parachute, their teammates had to grab them immediately. In this way, each member opened their parachute one by one, all escaping danger. Only Eggsy and Roxy remained free-falling at high speed, with Eggsy tightly holding onto Roxy. At just 400 meters above the ground, Roxy's parachute finally opened successfully. Luckily, the 2 of them landed precisely on the mark, completing their promotions safely. The others, due to poor performance, were all eliminated by Merlin. An infuriated Eggsy approached the coach to question him, but I didn't expect it.
You need to take that chip off your shoulder.
Eggsy thought he could join the organization, but on that day, Arthur found Eggsy and handed him a pistol, demanding that he personally shoot the dog he had raised. At the same time, Roxy in the next room faced the same choice. Whoever could complete the task first would truly join the organization. Eggsy looked at the dog he had raised with conflicting emotions and ultimately couldn't break free from the emotional bond, choosing to lower his weapon. The next moment, the sound of gunfire from the next room meant Eggsy was eliminated, while Roxy achieved her dream of becoming a top agent. Upon learning this news, Harry Hart condemned Eggsy's inner weakness, rendering all his previous efforts futile. It turned out that Harry Hart had to make the same choice years ago. When he pulled the trigger, he discovered the gun was loaded with blanks. The dog had been with him for over a decade until it died of illness. Regretful and remorseful, Eggsy realized it was too late for everything. However, just at this moment, Harry Hart received clues related to Valentine's whereabouts. According to intelligence, Valentine was planning some action at a church. Harry Hart immediately disguised himself as a worshipper and infiltrated the church, hoping to make some gains. However, what he didn't know at all was that all of this was within Valentine's control. As Valentine remotely activated the SIM card, a wave emitted from the phones in the church, causing everyone to become extremely irritable and start fighting those around them. Affected by the wave, Harry Hart unleashed all his firepower. After a chaotic and bloody battle, countless people died at his hands, leaving only Harry Hart alive in the end. Once Harry Hart regained his composure and looked at the bodies scattered on the floor, he could hardly believe it. As he opened the door to leave the church, Valentine was already waiting there. It turned out that Valentine believed that human-induced environmental destruction had reached an irreparable level, and only by rapidly reducing the population on Earth could the current situation be changed. Everything that happened in the church just now was just a small test for the population control plan. At this point, Valentine suddenly raised his gun, and Harry Hart was shot in the head, falling heavily to the ground. Witnessing this scene, Eggsy was deeply saddened, and everyone else in the organization was shocked. To avenge Harry Hart, Eggsy voluntarily approached Arthur, hoping to join the organization and kill Valentine. However, as Eggsy sat down, he unintentionally noticed a scar from an implanted chip on Arthur's neck. It seemed that he had long been in cahoots with Valentine. Using a little trick, Eggsy diverted Arthur's attention, quickly swapping the 2 glasses of wine, and then pretended to be unaware as he drank the wine in his glass. Seeing this, Arthur took out a pen, smugly explaining that with a simple press of the switch, Eggsy would succumb to poison within seconds, using this as a threat to coerce Eggsy into joining them. However, to Arthur's surprise, Eggsy remained resolute and outright refused. Arthur then pressed the switch, intending to watch Eggsy die in agony. However, he was suddenly racked with excruciating pain and cursed before dropping dead on the spot. According to Merlin's research, the chip implanted in Arthur's body could prevent interference from the wave. Only those who cooperated with Valentine could survive the massacre. As Eggsy disguised himself as the deceased Arthur, He first fooled the anti-aircraft missile recognition system, then smoothly infiltrated the fortress using the invitation code on his phone. He then used the poison needle in his watch to incapacitate one person, inserted a specially crafted USB drive, and helped Merlin successfully hack into the internal systems. At the same time, Roxy had already reached the designated location and, aiming carefully, launched a missile toward the satellite. However, just as Eggsy was preparing to withdraw, his identity was accidentally exposed by the enemy. Well-trained Eggsy first discharged a high-voltage shock from his ring, then delivered a powerful blow to knock down the enemy. He then leaped directly from the building, swiftly escaping through the crowd. Concerned that the plan might fail, Valentine activated the system in advance to start the countdown, while ordering his men to hunt down Eggsy with all their might. Facing the frantic pursuit of numerous enemies, Eggsy remained remarkably composed and adeptly evaded them. After countless evasions, he quickly broke through the encirclement and, just as the countdown was about to reach 0, the missile hit its target at the last moment, causing confident Valentine to instantly collapse. To assist Eggsy in returning to the plane, Merlin personally joined the fray. However, they underestimated Valentine. Although they breached the firewall and infiltrated the system, Valentine had installed a biometric recognition device at the terminal. Therefore, Eggsy had to return to the fortress once again to ensure Valentine's hands were kept away from the recognition system. Merlin opened the hidden compartment on the plane, revealing a full set of special agent equipment. Eggsy didn't hesitate to choose Umbrella and chose the umbrella, then opened the plane door and sprang into action. Meanwhile, upon learning of the satellite's loss of connection, Valentine immediately called a friend and quickly borrowed a replacement satellite, proceeding to reconnect the system. At the same time, to eliminate Eggsy, Valentine mobilized a large number of armed guards and began to encircle and intercept from all directions. With the bulletproof umbrella's formidable defense, Eggsy engaged in a fierce gun battle with the enemy in the corridor. However, the good times didn't last long. An enemy with a heavy sniper rifle is firing continuously at the umbrellas, with the powerful bullets piercing through the umbrella. Eggsy, facing imminent danger, quickly pulled out a grenade from his pocket. Although Eggsy fought bravely and took down numerous enemies, he soon found himself trapped in the corridor, unable to move. On Merlin's side, they're pushing anti-aircraft missiles right into the plane. In this critical moment, Eggsy had a sudden inspiration. Although he couldn't prevent Valentine from activating the SIM cards, he could hack into the system and activate the implanted safety chip. Just as the missile was about to launch, Merlin pressed the confirmation button ahead of time. Bringing a magnificent fireworks display to a close. After the system was reactivated, Valentine immediately activated all the SIM cards. As the electric waves continued to spread, major cities around the world fell into chaos one after another. To quickly stop Valentine, Eggsy returned with a rifle, firing at the control room upstairs. Valentine could only evade with Gazelle's protection. To buy time for Valentine, Gazelle charged out from the second floor. Her sharp weapons were like cutting through butter, each attack aimed directly at vital points. Caught off guard, Eggsy began to retreat step by step. At this moment, Valentine seized the opportunity to activate the system again. As time passed, regions around the world fell one by one. People went mad, killing each other, resulting in immeasurable casualties. After several rounds of intense fighting, facing Gazelle's swift attacks, Eggsy gradually adapted to the rhythm. The decisive blow soon arrived. In the end, Eggsy was only scratched on the thigh, while Gazelle was wounded by the dagger hidden in the shoe. The poison began to spread throughout her body. Now, only Valentine remained. Eggsy took Gazelle's sharp weapon and, assuming a stance, threw it toward Valentine. As Valentine's chest was pierced, the catastrophe was finally successfully averted. The movie concludes here. Kingsman, The Secret Service is a Hollywood blockbuster that combines action and comedy. The impeccably dressed Kingsman agents, their fluid fighting actions, and a wide array of specialized equipment are definitely worth watching. As a movie enthusiast, I welcome you to watch it. See you next time.